Fred Francis has been embedded there on a mission of his own for the last several weeks, actually. Fred, what progress report can you give us from northern Iraq?
Well, I can tell you that overnight, about 20 hours ago, the Republican Guard Division, the last one remaining in northern Iraq, the Nebuchadnezzar Division near Kirkuk, the oil fields, that headquarters was hit pretty hard last night. That seems to be the strategy. If Baghdad, the general staff in Baghdad, cannot talk to their headquarters at the Republican Guards, then the strategy tonight and the following night will be to make sure the generals at the Republican Guards divisions cannot talk to their commanders, even right down to the tank level. So if you go after the headquarters of the Republican Guards, there are 3 Republican Guard divisions around Baghdad, the Medina, the Hammurabi, and the Baghdad division around Baghdad. Go after those headquarters of those Republican Guard divisions, go after the 2 headquarters around Tikrit, Saddam's hometown, and Tikrit, the Adnan division, and the Nida division right there at Tikrit. If you get those headquarters, then those generals can't talk to the tank commanders, and when David Bloom's people get up towards Baghdad, that's the kind of situation where they want, where nobody can get information on where the Americans are coming from. So that's what you're going to see tonight and tomorrow night, and that's probably what they mean by shock and awe, shocking and awing the Iraqi generals who have to fight this defensive battle, which as you can see, is coming on them at a pretty good speed. Brian?
Fred, I may have to interrupt you because we do see a few more flashes over Baghdad, but in the meantime, General Wayne Downing has a question for you.
Fred, you and I have been talking now probably 4 or 5 weeks about the political and military vacuum in the north if the U.S. ground forces don't go in. And both of us have been very concerned about the Kirkuk oil fields. We're getting a lot of different reports about U.S. Special Forces, Rangers, paratroopers coming into the north to secure those. Any evidence that there's anybody in there to take control? Any evidence there's any sabotage going on, Fred?
No, there is no evidence that we moved special forces into the Kirkuk oil fields, as was reported by some networks this morning. We did not. They have, as we have been told by people coming into this region where I am, about 60 miles from Kirkuk, that the explosives have been put on the wells, but so far none have been sabotaged. There has been very little fighting, no Peshmerga, no Kurdish forces, and while that all sounds good, as you well know, you've got the Turks who want to come into northern Iraq from Turkey. They won't let the United States have overfly rights. You've got the Kurdish forces, 50 to 70,000 here, saying if the Turks move too far in, we'll have a war within a war. So this is a political mess, and the only way out of it is to put American forces on the ground around Kirkuk. How big a priority is that politically, and how big a priority is it militarily? I can't answer those questions. You're obviously more of an expert than I am, but I have seen the Kurdish forces building up not far from where I am, and ready to defend what they consider to be their ancestral city, Kirkuk. So if the Turks move further south, it could be a very messy situation for the administration, for Tommy Franks, and frankly for this entire war effort.
Fred, go ahead.
Fred, we've got some reports about the Turks crossing the border, vicinity of Zakko, up there very, very close to the border, and Masoud Barzani's KDP forces posturing to take them on. Are you hearing any of that from the Kurds you're talking with?
Yeah. Yes, the Turks have crossed the border, but not in large numbers and not in tank brigades. Barzani's people are up there. They're no match for Turkish tanks. That obviously never makes any difference to the Kurds. They'll go at it if they have to. It just depends how far south how far south the Turkish armed forces come. I think they'll let them in 10, 15, 20 miles. But General Downing, if they let them in any more than that, we're going to be covering another war, which is about 100 miles north of me. And I'm not sure how you cover that one when you have 2 American allies fighting over some turf that the United States hasn't taken yet. So I'm not saying we know what was destined to go to Kirkuk. It hasn't gotten there yet. Maybe it comes tomorrow. Maybe it comes the next day. I just don't know. But I know the political situation is quite unstable. The United States, we heard earlier Secretary Colin Powell saying, we haven't made a deal with the Turks. We're not pleased with what the Turks are saying. We don't need air rights over Turkey. So obviously the Turks are trying to get a little better, whether it's a financial or political bargain going. And the State Department and the United States government is saying no. So that upsets the political situation. I don't know how that impacts the military situation, whether that'll push Tommy Franks, General Franks, to move more forces into Kirkuk. And so we'll just have to wait and see.
That sure gives us another set of problems, us being the United States, that we do not need at this time. Fred, how about over to the west of you, towards Syria? What are you hearing now from the Iraqi opposition, from Ahmed Chalabi's people?
Well,
is there anything going on there?
No, Dr. Chalabi was here in my position today. We talked to him today. You know, they're waiting like the rest of us. There are some Iraqi opposition forces with special forces. They're about, by my estimate, I could be wrong, but I don't think I'm far wrong, over 1,000 American special forces in the western desert. There are opposition people with those U.S. Special Forces. We know that the United States has taken 2 airfields in the western desert. Opposition forces are with them as pathfinders, guides, and fighters if they have to be. But there's no large concentration of Chalabi's people or any of the opposition leaders' people to move south to Baghdad.